So Deadpool's back, and he's bigger than ever. Except this time, he kinda sucks. Hey, what's up guys? I'm Jared Poirier, and welcome to my movie review show where I talk about movies. Okay, so on last week's show, well, actually I didn't do a show last week, and I didn't do a show the week before. I was actually in Europe for a couple of weeks, but the last review that I shot was my review for Avengers Infinity War, and I'll put a link in the description to that video so you guys can check it out. First, I'd like to welcome back my subscribers, and if you guys are new here, make sure that you subscribe for more movie reviews. But with that said, I'd like to welcome you all to my review of Deadpool 2. So Deadpool 2 was a release that I was super excited to see. I really loved the first Deadpool movie. That was one of my favorite movies of the year when it was released. I was super surprised by that movie. I went in to see it and I was expecting really just another superhero movie, and the fact that Deadpool was such a violent movie and so sexually charged with so many raunchy jokes, I mean, they really went for it with the R rating, and I was really impressed with that movie. I really liked the fact that there wasn't a whole lot of studio involvement with this film. I think that the creators behind this movie, the director and Ryan Reynolds and a lot of other people involved, they actually had quite a bit more creative freedom. The studio didn't really give a crap about this movie. They didn't give them very much money, about like $60 million to make it, and I think that the movie really benefited from that. So going into Deadpool 2 here, I was excited to see what they could do with a little bit more of a bigger budget, but I was also a little bit worried that the studio might have quite a bit more involvement and that this might actually hurt the movie. Another thing that I was worried about is this film might get too bogged down in like the minutia of comic book details. I liked that Deadpool 1 really was its own thing. It didn't focus too much on storylines and characters and details from the comics. It was really just its own movie, and I liked that a lot. So even though I did kind of have those fears going into this movie, I was really excited to see it, and I would say that Deadpool 2 was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. So Deadpool 2 was directed by David Leitch, and it stars Ryan Reynolds, Josh Brolin, Maria Buchanan, ZZ Beetz, and TJ Miller. So let's get right into the review, and we're gonna start with the plot. So the plot here is one of the categories where unfortunately I have a lot of criticisms for this film. I found overall that the plot was pretty uninteresting, pretty generic. I didn't really care very much about the relationship between Deadpool and Russell, like at all. And I thought that the fact that this film actually included some time travel, there was a huge missed opportunity here. They could have done a lot more with the time travel aspects of this movie, and yeah, that was just super underutilized. The plot here is just like really a generic Hollywood plot, and there wasn't any twists and turns, there were no surprises, there was nothing in the plot that really made me super interested. I also want to talk about the writing in Deadpool 2. I found the writing pretty hit and miss. There are definitely some good jokes and some very clever references, but there are some big dead spaces in the script here. There's parts of this movie where the dialogue isn't very good, and honestly parts that are pretty boring. And that isn't to say that there aren't some moments in the script here that I was really impressed with. There's one moment where Deadpool first meets Russell, and he can tell that Russell has been abused, and he says that you can always basically see it in their eyes when someone has been abused. And when he first dropped this line, I was like, well, where did that come from? Why does he know what a kid looks like when he's been abused? But then I realized that they actually pretty cleverly did set this up earlier in the script, where Deadpool spends a lot of time freeing sex slaves from human traffickers. So I'll definitely give the writers credit for those good moments in the story where they reference stuff early on in the movie and they actually do set some stuff up. I like that kind of thing. And there are definitely some moments where Deadpool breaks that fourth wall and he acknowledges that some of the writing is subpar, but just because you acknowledge that the writing's bad doesn't make it not bad, and really that's no excuse. Okay, so let's talk about some of the characters here. I actually found the character of Vanessa is super underutilized here. She had a much bigger role in the first film, and here I just think that they didn't really know what to do with her. As far as the new characters go, I liked Cable quite a bit. He's got a little bit of more complexity that makes him a little bit more interesting. I also really enjoyed Domino. I thought that she was a pretty fun and well-written character, but I found that this time around, guys, I really couldn't enjoy TJ Miller's character at all. Just now that I know about the accusations of sexual assault against TJ Miller and the fact that he called in like a bomb threat on that train because he was in a fight with people, I just think that he's like a crazy guy and I don't really have any respect for him. Just knowing all that stuff about his personal life, I gotta be honest, it did really affect my enjoyment of the scenes that he was in. I just couldn't immerse myself in those scenes, and I just couldn't enjoy them. Alright, so I also want to talk a little bit about the music here. The music in this movie is super hit and miss. There are some really good song choices. There's a song that I believe was composed originally by Celine Dion that plays over the opening credits to this movie. That song choice was really good, really funny. I also really enjoyed the use of that Peter Gabriel song, In Your Eyes. That was really well implemented in this movie. But there's also some musical choices in this film that are pretty terrible. Unfortunately, there's quite a bit of just like generic stock movie music that's utilized in this movie. Didn't really see the point of that, didn't really enjoy that. I think that they could have done something quite a bit more original there. And actually there's a point in this movie where they utilized some dubstep. They played Bangarang by Skrillex. They actually use it twice, and I was just like, come on guys, don't play dubstep.
Come on, guys.
Most of the action scenes are pretty standard. You've got people shooting guns and people cutting off limbs and stuff like that, but there's nothing really original done with a lot of the action scenes, and the action scenes themselves aren't really that well choreographed. I also found that CGI was really overutilized in a lot of the action scenes, and they definitely did that thing where you'll kind of have a character in an action scene and they'll get hit in a certain direction, and it just kind of becomes like a CGI character, and it gets really blurry. And yeah, you can just tell that it's CGI, and I didn't really enjoy the overuse of CGI in the action scenes. Like, I gotta say that some of the action scenes reminded me of like a Kevin James movie, like Paul Blart Mall Cop or something like that. Like, yeah, it got pretty bad sometimes. And I also found that CG blood was really overutilized here. You can really tell when slow motion is in play. And you know, it just wouldn't have been that big a deal to get some squibs in there and have some more realistic blood effects. I think that would have maybe enhanced the action scenes a lot. But in general, guys, the action is not great here. There is one standout action scene that involves this truck that has like multiple compartments. It's basically kind of a cross between like a train and a truck. And there's a scene where this is driving through the city and you have all sorts of action going on in different parts of this truck. But overall, guys, the action in Deadpool 2 is pretty generic, and that was pretty disappointing. And just while we're on the topic of effects, I'm not gonna say that there weren't some moments in this movie where CGI was utilized really well. I think that the character of Colossus is well realized, and especially Juggernaut. But yeah, as I said earlier, I think that CGI was really overused, and I think that this is one of the places where the larger budget really hurt this film. Alright, so the last category I'm gonna cover here, guys, before I go into my final thoughts, this is the references in Deadpool 2. There are quite a few funny references to comic books, to the MCU. I especially appreciated some of the references to the DCEU. I don't want to go into any spoilers here, but look out for some pretty good references. There's one particularly good reference to the history of the X-Men comics that comes up when Deadpool first meets Russell. Look out for that one, guys. You'll know it when you see it. And of course, guys, there are the credit scenes in this movie, which everyone is talking about. I gotta say that these credit scenes, both the mid-credit and end credit scenes, are spectacular. And after those credit scenes played, actually me and the guy who was sitting next to me, we said pretty much at the exact same time, well, holy shit, that was the best part of the movie. Like, I actually kind of wish that they basically just made a whole movie where Deadpool travels around in time and kills people. Like, that would have been just a better movie, I think, than Deadpool 2. Alright guys, so now it's time to get into my final thoughts on Deadpool 2. And overall, guys, I gotta say that Deadpool 2 was kind of a disappointment. There's some good jokes and references, there's some good characters, there's a little bit of good action, and some pretty good effects. But there is some pretty terrible writing in this movie, some pretty boring moments, some pretty terrible music choices, some very generic action, and a plot that I just really didn't care about. And to me, I just feel like this movie was really plagued by too much studio involvement. As I said earlier, with the first Deadpool movie, I think that the director and actors and pretty much everybody involved had a lot more creative freedom. That movie had a much smaller budget, and the studio didn't really give a crap about Deadpool. They didn't think it was going to be a success, and I think that that gave the creators an opportunity to create the movie that they really wanted, and that might be the reason why Deadpool 1 is so much better than the sequel here. And even though I was really excited for this film, as I said, it's one of my most anticipated films of the year. After I watched it, I think, guys, that Deadpool 2 is pretty skippable. You guys don't have to run out and see this movie again right away. Maybe just rewatch the first one. So yeah, that's going to be it for this review, guys. Before you leave, make sure that you drop a comment. Let me know what you guys thought about Deadpool 2. Let me know if you were looking forward to this movie, if you enjoyed it more than the first one, if you thought it was crap, if you think that I'm crap at movie reviews, if you think that I'm an idiot, if you think that my opinion has no value. Yeah, definitely just leave all those comments down below. And I promise that I won't send any mercenaries to your house. But yeah, guys, that's going to be it for now. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, follow me on all the bullshits, all that good stuff. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and I will see you guys next time. Alright, so we're doing the good YouTuber shout out. And today we're shouting out Josh with Everything Movies. Josh has a super excellent channel on YouTube. Guess what he talks about? He talks about movies on his channel. And I really love watching his channel because of the variety of content. Not only does Josh do movie reviews, he also does unboxing videos, vlogs, videos about Blu-rays, stuff like that. So if you guys love great YouTubers, then you're gonna love Everything Movies. And I'll see you guys next time.